Hi, Timothy Unkert here. In this video, we're going to factor some simple quadratics. This first one we're going to factor is x squared minus 7x plus 10. Okay, so we look at the term b. This is the term in front of x. This is a negative number. And we look at c, the constant at the end. That is a positive number, meaning that we have to have two negative factors. So let's list the negative factors of positive 10. So those are negative 1 and negative 10, and also negative 2 and negative 5. And we want the pair of factors that adds to negative 7. So I'm going to select negative 2 and negative 5, and I'm going to write this in factored form as x minus 2 times x minus 5. Now, if I want to check this, what I can do is I could check it a bunch of different ways, but one way I like to do is with a Punnett Square here. So what we can do is we can write the factors, so x minus 2 and x minus 5, and we can multiply where each term meets up in the box. So x times x is x squared. X times negative 2 is negative 2x. X times 5 is negative 5x. And then negative 5 times negative 2 is positive 10. Okay? So if I look here, let's check and make sure we have everything. So do I have the x squared to start? Yeah, I have that here. Okay, so I have that. That's the x squared. Do I have the negative 7x? Well, I have a negative 2x and a negative 5x, and if I add those two together, I'm going to get a negative 7x. So yeah, these two add to negative 7x. So we've got that. That checks out. And then finally, do I have the positive 10? Yes, I have that right here. So this all checks out for this first quadratic. All right, let's look at this next one. This next one, we're going to factor x squared minus 14x plus 49. Now, I can do the same thing. I can look and see what multiplies to give me positive 49, but adds to be negative 14. And if we think about it, well, negative 7 times negative 7, that would give me a positive 49, but would add to be negative 14. So I'm going to write this as x minus 7 times x minus 7. Now, when you multiply something by itself, you're squaring that thing. So this is really x minus 7 squared. And as you go along, you'll start to recognize this. What we're factoring here is called a perfect square trinomial. So it follows the pattern of a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. So you want to confirm when you do this, but if I say a squared equals x squared, so a equals x, and b squared equals 49, so b equals either positive 7 or negative 7. If you have a negative here, you'd pick the negative. Well, 2ab is going to be 2 times x times b, which is going to be negative 7. So that's going to equal negative 14x. Okay, so we confirm that this is a perfect square trinomial. So what does a perfect square trinomial factor to? Well, it factors into the form a plus b squared. Okay, so we confirmed that b is negative 7 and that a is x. So this factors into x plus negative 7 squared, and when we add a negative, it's like subtracting a positive, so I could just write this as x minus 7 squared. So that's another way to do it. I don't like memorizing, this pattern here, a squared plus 2ab plus b squared factors to a plus b squared. I like being able to kind of come up with a general method of factoring and then apply it to even these special cases. But you may be different. Maybe you like this special method. I have another video on this channel about factoring perfect square trinomials. You can look into that if you want. Okay, this next one, we're going to factor x squared minus 4. Now, this is a difference of squares problem, and that follows the format of a squared minus b squared. And what that factors into is a plus b times a minus b. Now here, we could just factor this in the normal method when a is 1. So if we're going to do that, we're just going to add a placeholder for x. So we're just going to put a plus 0x minus 4. And we're going to look for two numbers that multiply to negative 4 but add to 0. And those two numbers would be positive 2 and negative 2. So positive 2 times negative 2 gives us a negative 4. And if we add these two, we get 0. So I would just write this in factored form as x plus 2 times x minus 2. You see what we did here? We took the square root of this. This is like b squared. So the square root of 4 is 2. And then we wrote, and the square root of x squared is, which is a squared, is x. So we have x plus 2 times x minus 2. It follows the pattern for a difference of squares problem. But again, I don't like to really memorize this stuff. I like to just approach it with a general method, which works for everything, including special cases. Okay, this last basic factoring problem that I want to go through is when you factor out a common factor. This only works if you have a common factor for all three terms. In this particular case, we're factoring 4x squared plus 12x minus 40. All these terms are divisible by 4, so I'm going to write 4, and then I'm going to have a parentheses here. So 4 times x squared is 4x squared. We're going to have a plus 3x because 4 times 3x is 12x. And then we're going to have a minus 10 here because 4 times minus 10 is, minus 40, or 4 times negative 10 is negative 40. Now, so we want terms that multiply to be, because now we're going to factor this further. This is still factorable. We want to have our terms multiply to negative 10 but add to positive 3, meaning we have to have a negative times a positive, and the positive number has to be further away from 0, which I'm going to say is larger, but it's basically the positive number is always greater on the number line, but it's further away from 0 than the negative number. So we could multiply negative 1 times positive 10. That meets my criteria of having the 10 be further away from 0 than the negative 1. However, these only add up to a positive 9, and we want a positive 3. So if I look at the other pair that we could use, we could do negative 2 times positive 5. That's going to also multiply to be negative 10 and add to be positive 3. So that's the pair that I want to use. And so writing this in factored form, I still have the 4 out front. And then I have x minus 2 times x plus 5. And that's all there is to it. Okay? So that's factoring out the common factor. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, please give a like and consider subscribing to the channel. Hope to see you in the next one.